We're now live, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. May I introduce myself? I'm Councillor Tom Ashton and I'm chairing this hearing. Sitting beside me are Councillor Frank Pickett and Judy Wellborn, and together we make up the Licensing Subcommittee. Appearing on screen is Martha Rees, our legal advisor, Jeanette Collier, Democratic Services Officer, and Pippa Rose is here in the room as our clerk for the day and will take the notes of the meeting. A little bit of housekeeping. Restroom facilities for ladies are on this floor and gentlemen halfway down the main stairwell. In the event of a fire alarm sounding, everyone is asked to leave the building via the nearest exit, escorted by our officers. Could I ask that everyone ensures their mobile phones are switched off or turned onto silent? And could members of the public please wait at the end of the hearing to be escorted back down to reception. This hearing is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube. Please can you ensure that you switch your microphones on when you are speaking so that you can be clearly heard, because the people that are tuning in outside of this room can only hear us through the microphone system. Now, may I ask members of the subcommittee, do you have any interest to declare in respect of the item on the agenda, please? Councillor Pickett.
No, Chairman, I don't have any.
Thank you. Councillor Wellborn.
No, I don't have any.
Thank you. The purpose of the meeting is to hear a review of the premises licence for the railway in 84 London Road, Boston. All parties have been given notice to attend this hearing and it will proceed notwithstanding a party's failure to attend. The application for review was made by the Chief Constable of Lincolnshire Police. I understand that you are here to represent the Police Sergeant Enderby.
That's correct.
Thank you. And PC McConville is here to assist you. Thank you. Welcome to you both. A relevant representation has been received from Environmental Health. Mr. Davis, you are here to represent that section as the Principal Environmental Health Officer. Is that correct? Could we just check that microphones are working?
Sorry, you can only have 3 on at a time, so if you turn yours off when you're using it.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you.
Working.
Thank you very much. And Mrs. Blakey, you are the licence holders, is that correct? Welcome to you, and we haven't been introduced to you. Is your representative?
Yes.
Grant Shackleton, solicitor from Chatterton's.
Thank you, and welcome to you. Can we just make your microphone is working?
I've mastered it now, sorry. Grant Shackleton of Chatterton's.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. McDowell, the licensing officer.
Good morning.
Thank you. Welcome to you. I will now hand over to our legal advisor who will go through the procedures for the hearing, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Apologies, I'm very distant and you'll have to look up at me. So the procedure for today is that initially Ms. McDowell will present the case as set out in the paperwork that's been sent round. Once she's finished presenting her case, members can ask her any questions on anything that she's presented if they need anything clarified. After that, it is the applicant for the review, so Lincolnshire Police will present their case to the committee members. When they have finished, then the premises licence holder, I assume Mr. Shackleton on behalf of the premises licence holder, can ask any questions to the police of what they have presented. And then members of the subcommittee can also ask questions to the police on what they have presented. And at that stage, the police will have a final point to just sum up their case. Next, it'll be for Mr. Davis from Environmental Health to present his case to members of the subcommittee. Again, the premises license holder and Mr. Shackleton have the opportunity to ask any questions of Mr. Davis on what he presents. And similarly, then members of the subcommittee can ask any questions to Mr. Shackleton. And at that stage, Mr. Davis, apologies, will have the opportunity to just sum up his case. Finally, it will be for the premises license holder and Mr. Shackleton to address members of the committee and call any witnesses that they want or wish to. Then Lincolnshire Police can ask any questions, as can Mr. Davis, and members of the subcommittee can ask any questions on what's presented to them today. Then there'll be a final opportunity for the premises license holder to sum up their case and their points before making their closing statements, and Lincolnshire Police and Mr. Davis can also make a closing summary statement. At that point, the meeting will be adjourned for the subcommittee to retire and deliberate and make their decision. Thank you. Oh, and also just as a reminder, if at any point, obviously this meeting is being held in public, if any party wishes to make a request that part of the meeting is heard in private, then they should do so before they start speaking. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Martha. So it falls, first of all, for the licensing officer to present the application. So I'll hand over to you.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, councillors. Mr. Blakey has had an on and off involvement in the premises since May 2012. The premises licence changed hands between then and now several times before finally being transferred to Mr. and Mrs. Blakey in August 2015. So he has been premises licence holder for approximately 6 years. The police applied for a review of the premises licence following neighbourhood complaints about noise and COVID breaches at the premises. That application was received on the 29th of April, and you will see all the details pertaining to that review in your application pack, Appendix 3. Additionally, prior to the hearing, further evidence has been submitted by Lincolnshire Police that you've all been provided with a hard copy of. The evidence also contains a number of video clips, which we would ask for us to go into private session to view those clips. So if you're happy for that, I think we need to do that for that part. Contained in the additional bundle that you've been provided with is a letter from Mr. Tony Gray, Environmental Health Manager, that supersedes the letter contained at pages 44 and 45 of your report. This is because between that initial letter being drafted and the final letter being sent, he has made amendments to that letter. So that the one in the bundle is the one that has been sent to Mr. Blakey. The review application was advertised on our website, in our offices and on the premises for 28 days as required by the Licensing Act. During the consultation period, a relevant representation was received from Mr. Davis of Environmental Health. This representation is attached to Appendix 4 of your committee report, and Mr. Davis will comment on his representation later. Following hearing all the evidence from all parties and any arguments, the committee have at their choice several options as to actions to take. Those actions are to modify the conditions on the licence, either permanently or for a period not exceeding 3 months, exclude a licensable activity from the licence, either permanently or for a period not exceeding 3 months, remove the designated premises supervisor, suspend the licence for a period not exceeding 3 months, or to revoke the licence. If the subcommittee feels that there are no appropriate steps, they can choose to take no action whatsoever. If I could just ask, finally, I have this morning received an email from Tony Gray, Environmental Health Manager, on the video evidence that we have had submitted since Sunday the 13th at the football match. He has asked that this be included at this late stage and be passed around to people to see. And if all parties are happy with that, then could we possibly, it's an email basically praising his opinion of the video clips. So if nobody has any objections, I shall pass copies of that around.
Thank you. I should just take advice from our legal advisor.
Yes.
I'm assuming that the licence holders and all parties have to consent to this.
Yes, Chairman, all parties now need to consent to anything new being introduced at this point. And it could be that if all parties agree, then you might want to adjourn for a few minutes while all parties just have time to consider that, read and consider that new evidence, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Blakey and your representative, do you have any views on this?
Yes, obviously I'd like to see this new evidence. I don't know without seeing it whether there'll be any objections, but it might lead to the possibility that I might need time to get other evidence or information in response. So it's a sort of suck and see thing. Let me please see the evidence, and then we can assess whether we can hopefully proceed or not with it today.
Thank you. Is that an acceptable way forward, Martha?
I think it's perfectly reasonable, Chairman, that obviously the new evidence is being admitted at this late stage, obviously the premises license holder is entitled to see that and then react accordingly. They can then, if upon seeing it, they feel that they need some more time, they can come to you and make that request, and we'll have to consider that request. But I don't think it's an unreasonable statement for them to be making at this stage, Chairman, no.
Thank you. In which case, we will take a short adjournment for that information to be shared with the licence holders. We will
Chairman,
reconvene.
No, Chairman, sorry, it's more, I think all parties have to agree for it to be, all parties need to agree for it to be admitted, and at that stage, the licence holder can see it and decide whether they, because it might also be for Lincolnshire Police, they might need some extra information. Obviously we're not, I know it's comments on the videos, but still it's some new evidence being admitted. So if all parties agree for it to be admitted, then we'll do the quick adjournment and come back and see what the results are from there.
Okay, so back to licence holders, whether you would consent to it being admitted or not.
Well, as I say, again, without seeing, I can't possibly comment. It may be that it's nothing really new in its comment that I would expect, but without seeing the evidence, I can't comment. I really, my client, natural justice should see that evidence in advance today to see what the case is against them. As I say, it might be nothing new that changes the path of the course we're going to take today, but I don't know what's in that.
My understanding is we would need your consent for it to be admitted.
Well, as I believe that we should have the opportunity to see the evidence, and without being awkward, it might be something that we can say, yes, we can crack on today, because ideally that's what we want to do. But something may arise from that evidence that may lead to an inquiry that I need to make. It's difficult to comment without seeing the letter, sir.
Well, I think in that case, if you're not able to give your consent for it being admitted, then we can't admit it. But thank you. I think that we don't have that,
yes,
the tracks down which we have to go.
I don't mean to be awkward, but without seeing something, I can't possibly make a judgment on it.
No, that's understood. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all from me. I'm happy to keep that one to myself. It really just reiterates very much Mr. Gray's previous letter. So,
thank you very much. So, Sergeant Enderby, do you have any questions for the licensing officer?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And do the licence holders have any questions for the licensing officer? Thank you. And do my colleagues of the subcommittee have any questions for the licensing officer?
Not at this moment's time.
no.
Thank you. Then it falls to the responsible authority, in this case the police, to present their case, calling any witnesses. And I understand there may be a request under Regulation 14 of the Licensing Hearing Regulation 2005 to move into closed session for part of this. If you could let me know if you wish to do that, and at which point you wish to do that, please.
Yes, Chair. It'll just be we have 2 clips we'd like to show, or 2 pieces of footage. So it's how it works best, really. Whether preferably, I'd like to, for the first footage, go to private session and then come out, continue, and then when we show the second footage, go into private session again. And it's just because of the there's members of the public who are caught on the videos. The videos have been on social media. The videos are in the public domain. But obviously, some of them wouldn't have realised I was being filmed. So I think if we could go into closed session just for the viewing of that.
Thank you. Then if you make your request to go into closed session, then we can consider that as a committee.
Could I make the request that for the showing of the pieces of the video footage that we enter closed session for just the period of showing that footage?
Thank you. Colleagues, I'm happy to move that we go into closed session for that.
Mr. Chairman.
And do you consent, or second?
Yeah, I'll second, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Wellborn, are you happy for to go into closed session? Thank you. In which case, can we stop the live broadcast onto YouTube, please?
Chairman, I think, is it the case that the police want the clip shown now, or do they want to address you first?
It'll be a case of there will be some presentation, then one of the footages will be shown. We'll continue with the presentation, and then the further video clip after that, if that's doable with the technology.
I believe so. So if you just give us the I believe so. I think Jeanette's monitoring YouTube. So if you give us the heads up when you want to go into private session and just pause to allow that, and then pause to allow us to come back into public session when you're ready, Sergeant Enderby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, I will. I'll outline to the committee the circumstances that have led to Lincolnshire Police calling for a review of this premises licence and for us all being here today. I think, as we're all aware, on the 12th of April 2021, England entered what was known as Step 2 under the Health Protection Coronavirus Restriction Steps regulations. This was really the first step out of a lockdown in place since early November 2020, which had affected licensed premises, albeit they had been allowed to do takeaways, but they'd been shut for any business actually on the premises. Step 2 allowed licensed premises to reopen, but only for sales in outdoor areas, so no customers were allowed inside. There was still, alongside this easing of lockdown restrictions, this reopening, there were still numerous social distancing measures that had to be kept in place, mask wearing, risk assessments, measures to keep the customers, etc., safe while they started using the premises again. There was both regulations that had to be adhered to, and there was guidance that was issued by the government and trade bodies. I think it's fair to say Step 2 and the measures that were involved in this have been widely publicised on all media outlets, newspapers, TV, radio, the internet. I find it hard to believe that any premises that needed to find out what it had to do to operate in a COVID secure manner, they could easily do that. It wouldn't be a struggle to find out what was required of them. And it's also worth bearing in mind that this Step 2 was really reverting to what they'd been doing in November prior to that lockdown coming in. So a lot of the measures that had to be in place, table service, not being able to order at the bar, people wearing masks unless they were sitting down drinking and eating, they had been in place prior to the lockdown in November. So it wasn't a whole new raft of measures. It was very similar measures that they should have already been implemented and they should have been fairly familiar with. The message that was also sent out about this latest step in the easing of the lockdown was that it should create a calm, controlled, safe environment inside a licensed premises for both customers and staff. That went alongside that's clearly what we were looking for, what premises should be able to achieve, that the environment was one where people could start going out again, businesses could reopen, they could start earning money, but it would be in a secure way and it would hopefully stop the spreading of the coronavirus. On the 13th of April this year, 2021, Lincolnshire Police Alcohol Licensing Team received information in relation to the Railway Inn in Boston that they were holding an event on the 17th of April. It was looked into, and it was seen that although the Railway Inn was not actually advertising any events on Facebook, the premises licence holder, Mr. Dean Blakey, had shared a post with another male stating, on the 17th of April, me, Belle Edling and Jamie Hancock will have the decks out all day at the Railway Beer Garden for Casey Blakey's 30th birthday. Really looking forward to playing some of the new music I've made during lockdown. It would be good to see some new faces on the day. There will be a limited number of tables available, so please arrive early. 6 people to a table rule applies. It should be noted that Blakey is the licence holder and Casey Blakey is the designated premises supervisor for this licensed premises. Having been sent that information, we immediately had concerns in relation to it. Initially, any background music has to be incidental, so you can't have an event. You couldn't have the reason that people were coming to a pub was for that music. It had to be background music that could be talked over. It is what it is, background music. Obviously, this appeared, by the way it was being promoted, it appeared to be a DJ style event. There was mention of having the decks out. So there were some concerns initially in relation to this. But obviously, we're also aware that on occasion, and we've had it in other areas around the county, that the way an event is advertised isn't actually how that event will be held. Sometimes the advertising was done as they would do pre-COVID, but they would have all the measures in place when the event actually took place. Because of our concerns, we contacted Boston Borough Council's licensing and environmental health teams to share our concerns with them and share the information in relation to them. On the 15th of April, so again prior to the weekend, Nick Davis is here with us today. I'm not going to go, obviously he'll speak in relation to his representation, but he actually spoke to Mr. Blakey in relation to the information that we've given him. He had similar concerns in relation to herself, and I believe he gave him advice in relation to the entertainment that was being proposed and the need to keep the volumes to a background type level as per the COVID guidance, the fact that no singing or dancing is permitted, and he also informed him in relation to a marquee or similar structure for persons to shelter in when outdoor drinking, that it has to be at least 50% open to be considered outdoor space. So the premises was contacted, the premises was given advice by someone who knew the guidance, was aware of the regulations, and he spoke to them and offered them that advice. The weekend came, and unfortunately, things didn't go as they should have done. Lincolnshire Police received the following information, which were created into incidents. Every time somebody rings the force control room, whether it be for a lost dog or to report a noise complaint, to report an assault, an incident's created. If numerous people ring the police about the same incident, they can either have numerous incidents created or they will keep them on the same incident. And there was a combination of this that happened. Incident 476 on the 16th of April, the Friday, was called in at 21:35 hours regarding the Railway Hotel, which is how the premise is known on the police systems. Caller states there is no social distancing whatsoever at the pub. There's loud music playing and 40 to 50 people in attendance. Incident 380 on Saturday, the 17th of April, was called in at 18:11 hours, so 11 minutes past 6 in the evening, again in relation to the Railway Hotel. The caller was Councillor Alison Austin. She'd received lots of complaints from members of the public ringing her in position of councillor, and had attended outside the premises to evidence the noise level. The caller stated she had to get in her car to make the call because the music was so loud. Caller then detailed an extremely loud party taking place. She described it as shaking the houses. It was that noisy. Officers attended and updated the incident at 18:44. Again, they were looking. We had officers to attend. because realistically, it isn't police officers' jobs to go to premises and tell them how to do what they should be doing anyway. But officers did attend. They stated that the premises at that point was very busy and that the landlord would turn the music down. The officer attending at that time stated he approximated there were about 200 people present, but at that point they appeared to be adhering to social distancing at their tables. At 1941, the same incident is updated because there's a further call from another member of the public, that again reporting that an extremely loud party was taking place with noise still being an issue. At 21:18, another call was received from again a different member of the public, stating that this is the second night this was happened. The caller was 90 years old and it was causing her distress and worry. 22:14, so 14 minutes past 10, a further call was received about the premises, again in relation to the noise coming from there. Incident 392 of 17th of April, another incident was created where callers reinstate they were at the pub not long ago, the beer garden was overflowing, no social distancing, and there were more than 6 people at a table. Incident 480 of Saturday the 17th of April was called in. 2033, caller had driven past, reported a possible lack of social distancing in the queue outside the local location and making a complaint again about the level of noise nuisance. Then we have another one at nearly 9 o'clock, 2054, an online report stating that at 7 o'clock there was a large gathering at the pub where they believe there was a possible COVID breach taking place in relation to the social distancing. Incident 516 on Saturday the 17th of April, called in at 9:36 hours. Caller reporting there were approximately 300 people at a party at the pub, potential COVID breach. The caller stated they'd seen evidence on Facebook and Snapchat where people are all grouping together, and it states it's the 30th birthday party. On the 18th of April, Councillor Peter Watson emailed Inspector Fran Howard, who's the neighbourhood inspector for Boston, detailing a local resident's complaint that last night the railway pub had a very large amount of people inside as well as outside, and they were partying and ignoring the social distancing rules. And on the 19th of April, Councillor Alison Austin emailed Fran Howard again, detailing in detail the fact that the issue was the noise and the flooding from the music that ran from approximately 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. on the Friday and expected to continue until that time, until the Saturday. That was the problem. The residents of Lindley Drive and further down Ludlam Road beyond St Thomas's Church had been unable to sleep. In addition, this noise had continued for a funeral on the Saturday. Certainly at the front of the pub on the forecourt, there seemed to be little social distancing. She states she witnessed it on Saturday around 6 p.m. and had parked on Lindley Drive behind Thomas's Church Hall. A daughter was with her to help confirm what the residents had said. And the vibration was, where I was parked, was clearly felt, even though this was on the opposite side of London Road and behind the actual pub. Moreover, we could even hear it as we approached the roundabout on the A16. She states one of the licence conditions that it does not cause a nuisance to residents, and it was certainly do that. And obviously one of the licensing objectives is to prevent public nuisance, which clearly these incidents indicate that what occurred at that pub, on that evidence alone from people bringing into the police to report the noise nuisance and their concerns, did cause a public nuisance and was undermining the licensing objectives. Over the next few days, Lincolnshire Police, my team received from various different sources video clips and screenshots taken by various persons off social media, which they forwarded to us, which we believe to be from what was happening over the weekend at the Railway Inn, and clearly quite graphically showed what had occurred. The screenshots are in your bundle on page 33 onwards, and additionally, the additional paperwork, there are a few more. I think now if we could go into closed session just to show, we've got some video clips that were sent to us. If we could go into closed session to allow the committee to have a look at those video clips.
Very happy to do that. And if we could